As always, thank you. Next, we'll have our invocation by Reverend Nicholas Beasley. You don't have to be a reverend to give the invocation. We have it today.
Let us pray. Oh God, we give you thanks and praise for this day that you have given to us, for the energy to rise and take up our lives anew, for the community of work and service of which we are all a part, and for this food that is before us. We pray for your guidance of all of us and all our fellow citizens. We ask for peace, prosperity, and justice. We pray for our sheriff, for all those who keep the peace, and that our country not fail to stretch toward the high ideals you've given us of liberty, equality, and the love of our neighbors. Amen.
Thank you, Nicholas. That was beautiful. Visiting Rotarians and guests, our relatively new member, Kate Abdullah, is going to give our welcome to those members and guests.
Hi everyone, my name is Kate Abdullah, and we have one visiting Rotarian today, Tom Ledbetter from West Metro. And then if anyone has any guests they'd like to introduce.
I'm Rusty DePass, and I have as my guest today Lee Lott. Lee is a young fellow who has done a lot of things in a very short life, but one of those things is being a commercial real estate developer. Another one of those things is being a pilot. Another one of those things is being a deputy sheriff for Leon Lott. And so he's delighted to be here today. He's also, incidentally, a candidate for the state senate.
I'm Wade Carlisle, and today I have as my guest my dad, Tall Carlisle, and he's retired and he's awesome.
I've actually got a guest as well. My guest is Nicole Crook. She's my cross-street neighbor, and she's also the Palmetto Insurance Group. Nicole Crook.
Hey, I'm Andrew Clarkson. I have two guests with me today. Stand up for me, David. This is David Tucker. David's working for his family business at Tucker Oil Company. And Orlando Martinez. Orlando is the Senior Lifestyle Coordinator at Discovery Village.
Thank you, Kate, and welcome all guests and visitors. Health and Happiness is going to be past President Hal Stevenson.
Welcome everyone to Rotary. I'll give you a quick update. Frank Brown sent this to me from the CART committee. It says that everyone knows that Alzheimer's involves memory loss, but did you know that it can also involve delusions and hallucinations, problems with balance, sleep, speech, vision, and swallowing, as well as seizures, paranoia, and other things. With CART Fund, Rotarians working to fight this disease. Remember the blue bucket on your table. Somebody would pick one of those up and pass it around and get people to shake out a little bit, a little change or a few dollars, or if you want to write a check, you can make it out of the cart fund, and it is tax deductible. Adam Jordan reminded me that we have a hero in our midst in the Midlands. Some of you may have seen the headlines in the news media about Thomas Paine out of Lugoff, rescued some 75 captives in Iraq, I guess it was Iraq, when ISIS and I was doing all the crazy stuff they were doing. So just want to point that out. Also, I have some sad news. Kishore's brother passed away suddenly, and he's been out. If you've been missing him, he's been helping take care of their family, and please give him your condolences if you get a chance. I didn't get a lot of other stuff, but I had some things on my mind from this summer. My wife bought a house up in the mountains last year, so we've been going to the mountains most weekends. And she's just kind of getting a bit like she just wants to do what she wants to do. I said, why are you acting this way, honey? She said, well, we're out to see our grandson, who's 4 now, out in Albuquerque. And we had 5 days with him while our son and daughter went off. And it was really, you know, you get out of practice with 4-year-olds, and it really is very difficult for them to get back into. Anyway, he was not doing exactly what we wanted him to do, and he just looked at Deanna and he said, Dee, I just want to do what I want to do. And so now she's taking that up as her mantra. I will say, speaking of grandchildren, we now have 2 more grandchildren on the way. It's fun. All you young people that are getting here don't know what it's like yet, but those of you that do know it's a great joy. So, welcome to Rotary. Have a great day.
Thank you, Past President Howe. That was great. Yeah, don't forget your blue buckets. That is for the cart fund. Please continue to eat. Don't forget that we do have a mask ordinance in effect for Richland County and Columbia, so we do want everybody to wear a mask when they're finished eating and drinking. Speaking of masks, we really want you all to buy or to give a $10 gift to the Rotary Club and get a mask, a beautiful mask for the Columbia Rotary Club. This is going to help support our efforts to fund our food packing event that we're going to have on December 5th. They're $10. They're available out front. I think they're available until 1 o'clock. But after 1 o'clock, you won't be able to go out there and get one because they will have already packed out the welcome table. So you can come back next week and get some if you want to. Please get a few each. They've already come in handy for me to have multiple on my car this week. So everybody put on your calendars for December 5th here. That's a Saturday at Seawells for our food packing event. The proceeds of all the food that we'll be packing are for kids in Richland 1. And Jonathan Jeffcoat's working on that and coordinating it for our club. So membership is the lifeblood of our club. This morning we had a Discover Rotary meeting. We had 2 guests come and attend. Thank you, Andrew, past President Andrew Clarkson, for conducting that Discover Rotary meeting. We'd like to encourage everybody to have prospective members, folks who may be interested in joining our club, to come next month for Discover Rotary meetings at 11:30, and it'll be on October 5th. Currently, we're trying to have the governor here that day. If we can't have the governor, we'll get somebody else. But today we have a spectacular speaker in Sheriff Leon Lott, and we always try to have notable speakers when we're having, of course, Discover Rotary. We have lots of notable speakers, even not on the first Monday of the month. But anyway, October 5th, here at 11:30, please bring prospective members to join our club. Please pay your invoices that have been out, if you haven't out already. We're going to leave plenty of time for our distinguished speaker, but I do want everybody to take 2 minutes right now and take 30 seconds per person and introduce yourselves to your table mates. 30 seconds, go. encourage all members to get to know each other. And I know that we get into a habit of sitting at the same table with the same people, but I want to do this from time to time. I'm going to catch you off guard and do a little 2-minute introduction to try to sit with new people, okay? So we'll have a second or 30 seconds to introduce yourself from time to time when time permits. Sometimes we have very busy schedules and sometimes we don't. Not that we don't have one today, and I do want to give plenty of time for the speaker, but I'm glad that each of you got to have a little introduction to your fellow table mates. Without further ado, let's have our membership coordinator, Glenn Matthews, come and introduce our speaker.
Okay, I have a confession to make. I've never met our speaker, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad I never have, especially in a professional capacity. So that's always a good thing. Our speaker is not the guy that you want showing up at your house in the middle of the night unannounced. I can promise you that. So born in Aiken, South Carolina in 1953, Sheriff Leon Lott attended the University of South Carolina, Aiken, earning a degree in police administration. He went on to attend the University of South Carolina, Columbia, earning a bachelor degree in sociology and continued with graduate study for a master's in criminal justice. Later, Sheriff Lott graduated from the FBI National Academy, FBI National Executive Institute, Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, and Furman University's SC Diversity Leadership Academy. Sheriff Lott earned a master's in emergency management from Lander University. Sheriff Lott came to the Richland County Sheriff's Department in 1975 as a patrol officer. He advanced thereafter to various positions, including criminal investigator, narcotics agent, lieutenant to the captain of the narcotics division, administrative captain, uniform patrol captain, and watch commander. In 1993, Sheriff Lott took the position of chief of police of St. Matthews, South Carolina. In 1996, he made a successful run for the sheriff of Richland County. Upon taking office, Sheriff Lott turned the direction of the department to community-oriented policing. Sheriff Lott was promoted to the rank of Brigadier General, Commander of the South Carolina State Guard in 2018. Sheriff Lott is a member of First Baptist Church of Columbia and is married and has 4 daughters. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sheriff Leon Lott.
My goodness, you even got John Monk to stand up for me. Appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to come and spend a little bit of time with you today. I'll go over a few topics, but I do want to open it up for questions. I think that's very important to answer some of the things that y'all got on your mind. I do apologize to begin with that probably look a little bit sleepy today. I had a rough night last night. It comes with a job. About 2:30. Phone rings and whatever it does, my wife just kicks the devil out of me and says, "It's for you." It rang at 2:30, she kicked me, I answered the phone and this male voice said, "Can I speak to Leon Lott?" And I said, "This is he." And they said, "Is this Sheriff Leon Lott?" And I said, "Yes it is. Can I help you?" And the man said, "Well, I just want to let you know a donkey's been hit and killed and was on Broad River Road." I said, "What?" He said, "A donkey, a jackass, has been hit by a car and is dead on Broad River Road." And I said, "Well, all right, I appreciate you telling me that, but you need to call 911. And the man said, "Well, I already did that. I'm just notifying the next of kin right now." The phone call did come last night, not quite about that. We do have a 2 o'clock press conference today. We had a real bad guy out of Minnesota that came here that had killed a couple people in Minnesota and came here to kill somebody, and we were able to apprehend him last night. Had a bunch of different agencies that was involved in it. He was shot. The bad guy was. No good guys were shot. We're leading that investigation, so at 2 o'clock I'm going to have a press conference to kind of give some of the details about that shooting. Crime has continued. The virus may have changed a lot of people's lives, working from home and locking up your places of business. That didn't happen for us. It's full force with us. We didn't put a closed sign on the front of the Sheriff's Department. We've actually continued to work even harder with more people on the street than we ever did before. Our school resource officers, we were able to put them on the street. We got them back in the schools now where they need to be. But the virus, changed all of our activities. But whenever you have challenges, it's also opportunities. It's given us a lot of opportunities now to build relationships in a different way and reach out to the community and work with them to get through this, and we will all get through it. My topic today was the Columbia riots, and I'm going to do a little bit different probably than what Mayor Benjamin did. I'm going to do a before, during, and after. And we'll start off with before, and I didn't bring the video. We got plenty of video, but I just felt like today I just needed to talk and not show video so much. When we heard that the protest was going to happen, the information we had that it was just going to be a protest. There was going to be a large crowd that was going to walk down Main Street, end up at the State House where voices were going to be heard. People were going to express their emotions, and that's pretty much it. No intelligence whatsoever that it was going to be beyond that. I got there that morning about 11 o'clock, stood on Main Street, actually walked with everybody. Nobody cussed me, nobody threw rocks at me, nobody did anything. Took a lot of pictures of people, talked with a lot of good people. Knew a lot of the people that were marching in the protest. Stood at the State House probably for about 2.5 hours. And while I was at the State House, I noticed a group of white individuals with Hawaiian shirts on that just totally looked out of place. And people were coming up to me and saying, "That's the Boogaloo Boys. Do you know that's the Boogaloo Boy?" I had no idea what the hell a Boogaloo Boy was. And people said, "Well, give me your email, we'll email you." So people were emailing me about the Boogaloo Boys. And I actually spoke to 2 of them and asked them, "Who are y'all?" And they said, "We're Americans." I said, "Good, I'm the sheriff. Now, who are you?" And they said, "Well, we've been hired to be here for security." And it just didn't feel right. But as people started emailing me, I started reading up on the Boogaloo Boys pretty quick. But stood there amongst thousands of people at the State House. People expressed their opinions, but there was nothing. It was a peaceful protest. And I had to leave for about 20 minutes to go do a drive-by graduation for 2 young girls that had graduated, and they wanted to do a little parade, so I went and did that. And came back and parked and walked from Lady Street all the way to the police department. As I'm walking to the police department, people are telling me, stopping me and saying, "The Boogaloo Boys are here. The Boogaloo Boys are here." And as I was seeing people there coming and say, "It's getting bad, it's getting bad." And what I saw was the people that were at the State House were leaving. The same people that I'd stood at the State House for over 2 hours, I was meeting them as I was going to the police department, and they were leaving. And as I got closer to the police department, I could see that the people there were different, completely different than the people at the State House. I still walked there by myself, and as I got there, one of the organizers came up to me and said, "We've lost control, will you come talk to the crowd?" So I did. I walked in front of the crowd, got on the microphone and talked to them. And as I talked to them and told them some things, I saw what was left of the people that had been at the State House were leaving. One of them was a county council person that was there. I told her she needed to get the heck out of there quick, because I could see that the mood was different. I could see that the people that were left at the police department had nothing to do with the peaceful protest, that they came for violence and they came for destruction. You could see it in their eyes, you could hear it in their voice, you could see what they were doing. Beforehand, we had no clue whatsoever that the crowd would leave the State House and go to the police department. So to say it was not prepared, it was not prepared. There was not a barricade had been set up, and it was probably about 10 of us that was there, that our job at that point was to hold back about 300 people from going and burning the police department down, and that's what their intent was. They were going to burn the Columbia Police Department down, and that was not going to happen. And I guess I had to make a call that I never thought I'd ever make as the sheriff, and I haven't made it 24 years. And I got on the phone and relay to people. I wanted every Richland County deputy to the city police department as soon as they could. Talked to other agencies with SLED, the FBI, and said we needed help. Send people. But you had a small number of people that was very brave that day, that stood between a very vicious rioting mob. These were not protesters, rioting mob that was angry, that had come prepared, and they stood in that line and they protected that building. Now, stuff being thrown at us, yes, bricks, rocks, water bottles. You'll see every press conference I do about the riot, I bring that rock. That rock was thrown while we were standing from the police department. Captain Utura, stand up. Back in the back with me is Captain Maria Utura. The rock missed me, it didn't miss her, it fractured her thumb. She ended up with a fractured thumb from this rock here. This is probably one of the smaller objects they were throwing at us. But that crowd was led in some ways by the Boogaloo Boys. The same group that I had seen at the State House ended up at the police department, where they had changed, they didn't have their Hawaiian shirts on anymore. They had a bulletproof vest on. They were prepared, and we could see what they were doing. We could also see other people that were in the crowd that was leading the charge, and the charge was throwing stuff at us, attempting to push on into the police department. At that point, we were on defense. That's the best we could do, was be on defense. We had to protect that building. That was the only thing that was being attacked at that point, was trying to get into the building. They had tried to come in through the back at one point, and we were able to stop that. There was gunshots. We actually apprehended the person that was firing the gun. They would get him out of the crowd. But you could see the planning that they had put in place with the stuff that they had brought with them. Spray paint cans were produced. Bottles that had some type of chemicals in it that was being sprayed on us. Frozen water bottles. It was hot. People thought the water might have been there for people to drink. It was to throw at us. That's what it was. And it might not sound much, but a plastic bottle full of water will hurt you when it hits you anywhere, but particularly in the head. So we were on defense for a short period of time until, I guess, the cavalry arrived. And once we got people there, then we started getting people in riot gear with shields and face masks, and we started doing our line in front of the building. Again, we drew a line in the sand, and that line in the sand was the top steps of the Columbia Police Department. We had people in the front, and that was the first line of defense, but inside the community room at the police department, we had another group that we held in reserve, and their job was that nobody would get past the top steps. Nobody was going to get past that top steps, because they were not getting in that building and destroying that building. And fortunately, we never had to use that crowd. But we started rotating our deputies in once we got there. It was hot, sun, full equipment. We were trying to rotate people out about every 20 minutes. The crowd was getting more and more violent. And at some point, they took down the American flag. And I will tell you, that pissed off a lot of cops. When they took those flags down and burned those flags, we didn't lose our professionalism, we didn't lose our tool, but I will tell you that you can see people tighten up just a little bit. Shortly thereafter, there were some people that got attacked, some Columbia officers got attacked, and before we could maneuver people around, the crowd then left. We had the guy from Pearl's restaurant. He had been attacked. We got word about that. Police cars were burned. Cars were burned inside the parking garage. There was that day a total of 21 Columbia Police Department vehicles were damaged. 12 civilian cars were damaged. We had 25 businesses looted or vandalized, in addition to people that were attacked and injured. Once we were able to get enough people there, unfortunately we didn't get them there quite as fast as I would like to, just because of just getting them in and getting them bussed in. A fairly large crowd had left the police department, moved into the Vista area, and did some damage in the Vista area, and we were finally able to get people, our guys and girls there, and that's when we started doing our line and started moving people. I will tell you a difference that I think was a deal maker for all of us is when the mayor showed up, the city manager showed up, the governor called, county council people called, city council people called, and they all said the same thing. Do not let Columbia burn. Do what you got to do. And when we had that backing, we knew that this was going to be different than what we had seen in Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis, where the leaders of the government there did not support the law enforcement, allowed them to do what needed to be done. I'll give the mayor credit. He got right up on TV about a little bit after 6 o'clock, and he told them exactly what he thought. And I'll quote him, "Take your asses home." And he was serious. He was very serious, and we almost had to throw water on him. He was so hot a couple of times. But, probably about that time is when we started taking the streets back over. Again, this had nothing to do with a peaceful protest. There wasn't a peaceful protester out there at that point. Just about everybody there then at that point had different motivations, and that motivations didn't have anything to do with George Floyd being killed or injustice whatsoever. It had to do solely with destruction. We found out later that we had one gang, Rolling 60s Crips, put out a statewide call for all of them to report. We had criminals from all over the place that were showing up. They were taking advantage of a situation. The Boogaloo Boys, some that remained here, the rest of them went to Charleston and engaged in the riots down in Charleston. That was a planned attack by them. So we ended up taking the streets back over. The curfew went into effect. We cleaned the streets up. And as far as when I say clean them up, we did that two ways. We got people off the street, and then the city moved in almost immediately and started repairing broken glass, painting over, graffiti, getting things back to normal, and that really helped. That made a big impression on everybody, is that you might have had your freedom to do a destruction for maybe an hour or so, but it was it. That's over with. It's not going to happen anymore. The next day, later that night, around 11 o'clock, we had one of our buses that had some prisoners in it at Gervais and Assembly Street. About 11 o'clock, we had shots fired at us from the parking garage on Assembly Street. We had to clear those areas. There were shootings, probably at least about 3 or 4 separate shootings. We had multiple people there that had guns. I will tell you, it was tough. I've been through a lot of stuff, been shot at a lot of times, and a lot of different things. This was probably one of the toughest, longest extended things that I've ever been exposed to. But I will tell you now, the men and women of the law enforcement that was there stood strong. They did not lose their cool. They did not let words antagonize them. And I will tell you now, I've been called every word that you can imagine that day, but we kept telling them they can talk all they want to. We're not going to allow them to put their hands on us, and they're not going to hurt us. But just accept what they're saying. And as we would change the line, I would talk, each deputy would go out there, and particularly the minority deputies, and tell them, you're going to hear it worse than anybody else. Just keep your cool. Keep your cool. And then I would also tell them this: remember faces. Remember them. Payback's going to be hell. Not going to be today, maybe. But payback's going to be hell. Remember who they are. And they did. And so Saturday was over. Sunday, we were a lot better prepared on Sunday, we knew. We had people coming in from different agencies. We had the people there. Sunday we had a little bit that afternoon where a group broke off from the main group, tried to sneak in to behind the police department where all the cars were. We could not allow that to happen because we'd seen what happened to cars the day before. So that's, you got a before, no clue what's going to happen, what was going on doing. Now what's happened afterwards. 98 people have been arrested since that weekend, 3 months ago. We continue to get them identified. We've had people sit in front of computer screens for hours and hours looking at body cams, surveillance cameras, Facebook Live that people were streaming, and that's helped us identify them. There was 2 locked up last week. 1 was locked up the week before. We've put out a great many of them through the media. That has helped us. The community has helped us tremendously to identify them. We identified the 2 guys that sucker punched and knocked out the Pearls manager. And then we've been putting out about a very large guy that stomped on him. That very large guy was 6'4" and weighed 360 pounds. His name was Nicholas Fleming, and he was arrested last week also. Not only was he arrested for attacking the Pearls manager when he was knocked out and lay on the ground, but he also had a gun on him. And when we located him in the motel, he tried to hide the gun, and we got the gun from him too. So these are the type of individuals that we've had. But we've been following up, and we continue to follow up. And, you know, again, our point was that we were going to hold everybody accountable. If you threw a rock, if you threw a water bottle, if you threw tear gas back at us, if you broke something, if you hurt somebody, whatever you did as a crime, we were going to hold you accountable, and we've been able to do that, and we're going to continue to do that. 3 months later, we haven't forgotten. Now, there's no statute of limitations on you burning the police car up. And as you saw last week, our federal authorities now stepped in. The United States Attorney's Office is starting to charge them, and we hope to continue to do that. So what have we done after this to prevent us from having any problems? We have not had one problem since May 30th and May 31st. And we've had numerous protests, but not one problem. A couple things was, we put our foot down and said, okay, come peacefully protest all you want to, but you're not going to burn nothing down, you're not going to hurt people. That word spread because we were locking people up. We put out that no nonsense that was going to happen here. But then we started working with some of these groups that were doing the protest. And I've been criticized from this end and this end because we partnered with Black Lives Matter South Carolina. Black Lives South Carolina is different than some of the Black Lives Matter groups or people who are using that name in other parts of the country that's doing stuff that's bad. We've partnered with them, we're working with them, we sat at the table with them, and we've come up with some good ideas and things that we can do to make the system better. So what we've taken is that these groups that may go out here and do something wrong, but when you sit at a table with them and you talk, we find out that some of our goals are the same, and that's for people to be treated decently and with respect, and whatever racism it is, to work and see if we get rid of it. By working together, we can accomplish that. So we've sat down at the table with these different groups, and we've been able to do that. We have a Citizens Advisory Council. John Hinks part of it. They're part of our hiring process. They're part of everything that we do. The Executive Director of Black Lives Matter South Carolina sits on our Citizens Advisory Council and has for a couple months now. So we're working together to accomplish good things. You will not find that probably anywhere else in the United States where law enforcement has sat down with a group like that and said, okay, what can we do to work together? We've reached out to just about every group. I will say 75% of them has been very receptive and sat down and talked to us. There's been some that said, that's not on our agenda. We don't want to sit down and talk with you. We don't want to have anything to do with law enforcement. That's fine. But our message to them is, you're not going to burn Columbia down either. So, you know, the after has been very effective because 3 months later, with protests that we've had, there's been no problem whatsoever. We had one bad weekend, and from what we've been able to do, we've been able to now move forward, and I think we're making a lot of progress moving forward. Maria's going to pass out one guy that we're looking for. I want everybody to look at this guy. We nicknamed some of these guys, we call this guy Dad Bod. Don't ask why, but that's what his name. But each one of them had a nickname. And I will tell you there was one individual that was at the protest that he stood out because he had a stick, a big tall walking stick. He used that walking stick to break out police cars, hit at the officers. He was all over the place, inciting people. And that was on a Saturday. Monday afternoon, there was a protest at the State House, so I'm sitting in the parking lot at Gervais and Assembly Street, just sitting there watching what's going on at the State House. And who pulls up beside me and parks? We call him Stick Man. Stick Man got out of the car with his stick. And I said, there is a God. So took a picture, got his tag number. Next day he went to jail. So, so we've had some luck, but we've been able to identify a lot of these people through the community support, through just stuff that they've done, putting stuff on Facebook, which we like that. But we've learned a lot. We've learned that we're a lot better prepared now. We have a lot more equipment. I will tell you, we almost ran out of tear gas on that Saturday. That is not going to happen again. We didn't run out. We almost did. But we found out that you do have to be better prepared, and I think we are better prepared now than we ever were. We thought we were, but the intelligence just was not there for us to know. I know all about the Boogaloo Boys now. This guy that Maria's passed around now is Antifa, however you want to say it. He is a member of that. He came prepared. He already had his sheets spray painted. He had spray paint cans. He spray painted a bunch of stuff, destroyed some stuff, a bunch of cameras. We have not got him identified yet. I don't think any of y'all in here will know him, but y'all need to see who we're looking for. He doesn't go to a Rotary club, I can tell you that. But, that's kind of the before, the during, and now the after. And I'm just so encouraged with the after that we've been able to make so much good progress, not just in arresting 98 people and holding them accountable, but the progress that we've made now with groups that we need to have discussions with. Yeah, we got problems in law enforcement. We've got problems in any profession that you have. And you have to address those problems, and you have to do that together. And that's what we're looking at to do with these different organizations. Okay, what can we do working together to make things better? And if we do that, then we're going to move forward. So at this point, I'd like to answer any questions anybody got.
First of all, thank you for the superb job and the feeling of security that you provide to Richland County and really to the whole state. Thank you so much. Leadership at a national level. Question, where are these people from that are coming in? Are they out of state? Are they local? And what is their end game?
We had both. We had people from all the way as New York, New Jersey that was here. We had them from all over the state. We had them from some of our surrounding states. So a good, probably about half and half. But we had gang members and criminals that were there. They just took advantage of the situation. Didn't have anything to do with what the peaceful protest was earlier. They just knew this was a time that they could come and just wreak havoc and do what they wanted to. The business they were trying to break into were just offered about looting. I didn't cover, but that Sunday night, after the protest was over on Sunday night, we had a group of about 20 went to Green's liquor store, broke in there. They left there, went to Northeast Columbia and broke into an alteration shop, fireworks stand, and a jewelry store. That's just stealing. That's just out and out stealing. We've locked up a good many of them. They used the big old sledgehammer to break the glass cases at the jewelry store. Lo and behold, one of them cut himself and left his blood. And we got his DNA. A career criminal who had just gotten out a few months before a career criminal. But we've seen the gang members, this was the gang members' opportunity to come and do what they wanted to. And they had put out the word, the Shelby Columbia. The two guys that sucker punched the Pearls manager were both from Orangeburg. So to answer your question, we have a little bit of both. What really disturbed me was the Boogaloo Boys. One of them was a Richland County EMS worker who we have on tape after when he was leaving the riot, was saying, I got to go to work. So he went to work at 4 o'clock that afternoon working for Richland County EMS. So this is somebody supposed to be protecting us, and he's out here trying to hurt us.
Two questions, Leon. First of all, how is it going with people actually being prosecuted that you arrest? I was real frustrated with what Charleston did with these mass releases. And the second question is, why is not a blowhorn in your face that far from your nose not a weapon? Why not? That's a physical assault, in my opinion, because you're losing your hearing over it.
Yeah, but it's sticks and stones break my bones, but words never hurt me. That's kind of what we went by. And so I agree with you, they talked to it. None of them been prosecuted. Well, I will tell you this, and the 16-year-old that knocked out the Pearls manager got 30 days house arrest. That was his sentence. That's the only one that's been to court at this point. Our solicitor's office has 2 prosecutors assigned to it, and they've assured me that they will prosecute them. So I don't think we're going to have an issue with that here. They also had someone at the jail with, as we were arresting people, they were bonding them out immediately, which is what we see out in Portland and some of these other places. I mean, this is an organization. They have this planned out on what they're going to do and how they're going to do it and getting people out of jail. So, the bond, we locked them up. We lock them up one day and see them out the next day. That's the nature of the beast. There's nothing I can do about that. I tell my people, let's don't worry about what we can't control. Let's worry about what we can control, and we'll handle our part. What happens after that, then so be it.
And it seems like 19 years ago, this whole country, professional athletes, you name it, could not say thank you enough. Now, that whole thing has turned, where it seems y'all don't get enough of the thank yous. What do you, in your opinion, if you even have a thought process, we're not even talking a generation, 19 years, and the tables have turned to the point that an officer doing their job in the middle of the night, sitting in their car, not bothering anybody, getting ambushed. It's not right.
Well, 19 years ago, we were heroes, today we're zeros. In a lot of people's eyes. Well, in some people's eyes. But I don't think anybody in this room feels that way. So, and that's what, motivates us to put this uniform on and go to work every day, because we know the majority of the people do support us and believe in what we do. We've hurt ourselves on things that we've done in law enforcement. There's some things that we could have done better, and we've had some very high-profile, terrible cases. So we've been our worst enemy in some ways, and not being transparent and getting information out to the community as fast as we could. We should do that. That's one of my biggest pet peeves since I've been sheriff, is that if there's a critical incident, particularly a shooting, most agencies just shut their mouth and don't say nothing about it. The community wants to know. The community's not going to accept that anymore. They want to know what happened and why it happened. And it's our job to put that out, but we're still living in 20, 30, 40 years ago when you used to do it that way. Well, Frank Powell might have got away with doing that. I'm not going to do that. If we have something, we're going to put it out, good, bad, or indifferent. I locked a deputy up a week ago, and we put it out. No need not to put it out. He screwed up, he crossed the line, he gets arrested. We didn't do our job in finding. No, that falls on me. You get out in front of it and say this is what happened. But unfortunately, across the United States, most agencies don't do that. It's under investigation. I can't say nothing about it. BS. There's nothing that says you can't get up and talk about it to a certain extent and tell what's going to happen. Just like today, 2 o'clock, I'm going to do a press conference today and tell about the shooting that happened last night. Community knows somebody got shot last night. They want to know why he got shot. Why did y'all shoot him? We're going to tell why we shot him. You know, you put that out there. That's on us. So we've hurt ourselves, but again, I'm going to go back. Majority of the people support what we do. You know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, somebody breaking in your house, you ain't calling the plumber, who you going to call? And we're going to respond. Our job, we're willing to die for people that we don't even know, for someone we don't know. You know, but that's something that we accept when we put this uniform on. Just like those 2 LA County Sheriff's deputies, when they put that uniform on the other night before they went to work, they don't want to get shot, but they're willing to do that, and they did get shot. For people that don't even have any idea who they're protecting, that is our job. That makes it a little bit different than most other professionals. Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions. I also want to thank you for keeping the city safe as well and not letting it burn like other places. But I heard you mention the Boogaloo Boys. I saw a lot of Antifa and BLM members on Twitter fundraising for fun for bells for the rioters here in Columbia. Was it just the Boogaloo Boys inciting the riots, or was it all the groups? And the other question was also, I have firefighter friends, and they mentioned getting their fire trucks and everything getting hit with bricks and rocks. And I've seen multiple times on the internet, I mean, literally piles of bricks being stacked up in like, well-to-do areas. I mean, that takes heavy machine equipment to make that happen. I just don't understand how that happens without anybody sees that. And I was just wondering if y'all have any intel where that's coming from and how that's being noticed. And also seeing that Antifa and BLM coming into neighborhoods, should we be concerned about our communities and where we live at?
Not here. You don't live in Portland. What you're seeing in Portland and other cities like that is not going to happen here. One, Black Lives Matter here is working with us. They're anti-violent. They're against the violence. They didn't have anything to do with the violence that started on May 30th and 31st. Their movement was hijacked by these criminals. The Boogaloo Boys, Antifa, they're all anti-government. They're not for anything except they're anti-government. Yes, we did have fire trucks that were attacked when we tried to move in to put out some of the fires in some of the police vehicles. Bricks and rocks were thrown at us. I've seen in some of the places where they've had piles of bricks, pallets of bricks. The closest we heard that happen was Charlotte. We didn't have them delivered here. They already had them here. If you look in front of the Columbia Police Department, to the one side there's a construction going on. They took all the bricks and stuff, and they're the ones that they didn't bring. They brought a lot of stuff with them. You know, I've watched videos of all the cars being spray painted. They didn't go to Dollar General buy these cans while they were there. They already had all that stuff with them. They were prepared to do the damage and destruction that they did. It was planned out, just like the Boogaloo Boys was planned out. We think this guy just shows us Antifa. He was planned out on what they were doing. That they have one motivation, that's anti-government, destroy stuff.
Do they know who's financing these people?
No, I wish we did. I'd go shoot him.
FBI.
We got your back.
We don't. I mean, and that's one thing we've talked to our federal authorities and that they're working on trying to do. We're going to handle locally, and the federal authorities are going to take it nationally because that's what it is, and they're going to try to find out who's financing. This is being financed. It's not just happening. It's being financed. Just like the lady that was at the jail with $35,000 cash that was bonding people out as soon as they got booked in. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Sheriff Lott, appreciate you being here today. In addition to doing all that you were doing when the riots were going on, you were also a husband and a father and a grandfather. And one of those nights, social media posts went out that you had been shot.
Right.
And it kind of bothered me. How do you make sure that your family at home knows that you are okay in a situation like that when something like that gets out?
They didn't know. WIS put out that I had been shot when our deputies had been shot at. So there was a little bit of panic at home. And it was a little bit of time before they were able to get in touch with me. But I don't want to be callous about it. That's part of the job. They know that. But yeah, they panicked. All my daughters and wife and friends and all the people that my daughter plays basketball with was all, texting her and stuff. And so there was a little bit of panic for a while. So I got a great big hug when I got home later that night.
Yes, sir. I hope nobody throws anything at me for how crazy this question might sound. I realize that this is a very sensitive topic in light of the Winoshia, Wisconsin situation, which I think is all real sad. But our Constitution, as I understand it, does have something called the Posse Comitatus Act, which does allow for leadership to round up volunteers to take on an enemy, such as Antifa or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? Should some Portland scenario ever arise in Columbia? I know you said it wouldn't, but a situation where you just got people just inciting bedlam for days and weeks and months on end. Could y'all just ask for volunteers and just go settle?
We could, but we're not, because we're going to do it. I mean, and that's our job. I'm not going to ask you to go put your life on the line when that's what our job is to do. And one thing we're fortunate about in South Carolina is that I only made a few phone calls, and I had cops coming from all over the place. The sheriff from Kershaw County showed up with 30 of his deputies. We had everybody from the Department of Public Safety. And I will tell you, on Sunday, Brian Sterling, Director of Corrections, had sent me his buses on Saturday, and then we had them lined up for Sunday, and he said, I have my riot team, the ones that wear the red suits, they can come help. So we had them come. Well, John Monk will tell you, when we were back behind the police department and the tear gas got thrown back at us, we all ran because the tear gas was killing us. Those people in those red suits sucked up that tear gas and never moved an inch. I have more respect for them now than anybody I've ever met. They did not break ranks at all. And we broke ranks. I'm telling you, that tear gas got all of us. And but they were there. So to answer your question is, we're not going to need that because we've got enough law enforcement assistance going to come to us and help us. Charleston was sending us 40 people. Police chief from Charleston had called when it first started here and said, hey, nothing's happening in Charleston. I got 40 people on my field force team. I'll send you up there. 15 minutes later, he called up and said, all hell's broken loose in Charleston. They coming back. So, but we had, I put the call out, they're going to come. So I'm getting the hook. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate you.
Sheriff, I'm reminded of a famous line from A Few Good Men. We need you on that wall, we want you on the wall. And you don't have to be in Guantanamo Bay. Thank you very much, Sheriff. In his introduction, it was not mentioned that he is a member of the Spring Valley Rotary Club, so I'm going to give him one of our masks. And again, thank you for being here today. He has a mask that has a badge on it. He probably wears that all the time, but whenever he doesn't want to wear that, he can actually relax. Maybe he can wear the Rotary mask. Thank you, Sheriff. We really appreciate you being here and everything you do for this community. Thank you. We can't say thank you enough. All right, we'll take us out with song, Rusty. Oh, sorry, Rusty. Sorry, Rusty. President-elect.
Next week, we'll hear from Robert Hughes of Hughes Development Corporation, and who you probably are familiar with Wall Street, for one project here in Columbia. But anyway, look forward to it.
Another great speaker next week, Bob Hughes. Rusty.